Hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank you for your interest in the course Level Up Your Lighting and Rendering. In today's lesson, this is going to be the final lesson of this course, and we are going to be talking about rendering. So by the gist of it, I'll show you the few nodes which are very important when you're rendering. So first of all, in my graph, as you can see right now, it's AOVs. So if I expand this, so basically an AOV is an arbitrary output variable. So what that means is basically you're telling the renderer what exactly you want. It's up to you. You're defining the channel. You're defining what light rays you want to capture. So there are two nodes which are needed to define a AOV. So first node is the expression. So that basically means is you're going to be defining a PRMan output channel defined. So that node is being used, and you will be using a light path expression. So what a light path expression node is, it is basically a code that is telling the renderer what exactly you want to capture. Light path expression is basically a code telling the renderer what exactly you want to capture. So you want the data from the camera, you want data from a specific light, and what kind of information do you want to store. Do you want reflections, transmission, diffuse? So all of these information are basically being captured by the renderer in a very specific channel, and that's what you are defining here in the PRMan output channel defined. And then you write the code. For example, in the diffuse, I want the camera, I want the radiance diffuse with all the lights selected. And yeah, now that you have told the renderer which lights you want to capture in the channel, you'll tell him where do you want that channel to be stored. So I want the channel to be named diffuse, and the same expression I'll type into the channel and select the file extension. So basically here you are generating the information, and here you are saving the information. It's as simple as that. So in order to get different AOVs, you basically connect them in a series like this. So I have diffuse, indirect diffuse, specular, indirect specular, and so on. Once you have defined your AOVs, sometimes you want very specific lights. They are called as light groups. For example, in the scene, I want this lamp. I want the contribution of the lamp in the entire scene. So what I'll do is I'll basically define a light path expression. So what you have to do is when you create the light, there would be an option for an LPE or light group. You'll type the name, and let's say I want the information on all the bulbs. So I'll select it, and I'll do the same. I'll use the PRMan output channel define node, and I'll type in the light path expression for that specific light, which is give me all the information which is generated by this bulb light, and I'm basically storing it, and then I can save it into an image. It's as simple as that. What this helps you is, for example, imagine this robot room scene, and in this, let's say you switch off all the lights except the bulb light, and what will happen is you'll get immense control. For example, right now I have a pink lamp shade. Let's say I want it to be red. I can go in and use that specific image and basically tweak in all the colors and change it to however I want, change it to red color, and then I wouldn't have to go and re-render it because I already have that information, and we can color grade it however we want. So these two things, AOVs and light path expressions, are basically very powerful together, and you can basically control every set of image depending if you have generated that data. So once you have these two set up, I'll show you like two basic nodes which are really important while rendering anything in Renderman. First of all is Renderman integrator settings. So Renderman integrator is basically a node which tells Renderman how you want the renderer to render your image. So in a simple layman terms, you're telling Renderman, okay, I want a really high quality image which calculates lighting, which calculates the materials, which calculate reflections. I want it to go through different things. I want it to bounce off materials, and yeah, so you basically are telling like how many samples you want, what kind of things you want it to calculate. That's basically the gist of it. You're telling Renderman what are the things you want it to calculate for you. So if I go ahead and select something else, for example, let's say you want Renderman to calculate occlusion, you can go basically select it in the integrator setting instead of applying occlusion material to all of the objects. You can also tell it to, like, let's say you want wireframe or you want any specific visualization, so you'll go ahead and select that kind of integrator. So it's really easy to get the result which you want to see and to tell the renderer what you want to see. Now, in correspondence to that, there's PRMan global statements. So what PRMan global statement is doing is basically telling globally what kind of quality you want, what kind of noise you want, what kind of samples you want, minimum and maximum of those things, and what kind of specific options you want. So it's like globally telling your renderer the aspects of quality. So let's say you want a quick render, you go into quality preset and you can basically select like draft or denoising or immediate or any of those, or you can, select high quality, but you can reduce the pixel variance so that you get a noisy image, but you get to know like where the light is bouncing off from. So together, integrator and global statements work in parallel, and what they do is integrator tells the renderer how you want it, and global statement basically defines the image quality and other parameters. So together with them, I also have like a beauty node. So what I've done is, it's basically I'm defining an output and I'm telling Renderman specifically that I want a beauty render. Beauty render in terms of lighting and rendering is the final render, the combination of everything that is switched on in your scene and how it's gonna look. And I'm basically defining it as a separate image so that I can have a more control over it. I can choose the file extension, I can choose my own channels. For example, in the channel I have like CI, which is basically anything that camera is seeing, and I have A, which is alpha. So why do I want an alpha? Because I have these windows and I want to, let's say, put something in the background depending on the scene I want. So I took out the alpha, and then later in Photoshop or Nuke I can combine it. In the render settings, finally you tell what kind of resolution you want your image to be. So you basically define which camera you're looking through, which render you are seeing. So these are the render settings. Above we have seen the nodes, which basically are defining what we are telling Renderman to do. Out here we are telling Katana what we want. So render setting nodes is basically telling Katana, okay, we want to use Renderman as our image renderer. This is the resolution we want Renderman to render at. So that's told by render settings, and everything else is controlling what Renderman does. So this is a really important tool. You won't be able to render an image without using a render settings node, unless you have some, project variables already defined, which tells the renderer which tells the Katana what render to use and stuff. But yeah, without render settings, you won't be able to render anything. And the final node is a render node, which is basically telling what are the outputs, where are they being saved, and if you want to switch on or off any of those outputs. So in the gist of it, this is what rendering in Katana looks like with Renderman. So this was the final lesson of this course, and I'm really grateful for your participation. Hope this helped you, at least one of you. And yeah, I'll be making a bit of like extra videos on this topic as well, like on rendering or like in Katana and Renderman in general. But as a total sum of all the videos which will get you started, get your objects into the Katana and start putting materials, lights and rendering done, yeah, this course should help you with that. So with that said, I thank you all and see you in the next video. Cheers.